I was just reminding myself here that the first time I saw Dr. Bowman was in 1954. He was speaking to the Kiwanis Club at Dover Foxcroft. He showed slides of Pineland, and he told people some of the things that he thought needed to be done there for the retarded. And he went around the state educating groups like that and trying to build support because he knew he had a condition that needed a lot of change. And it was just about that a year later that we were told by the head of Children's Hospital in Boston that we should put Barbara in an institution and forget her. That didn't sit very well, but it must be remembered that in 1955 there just was no choice. You kept your child at home, or you accepted whatever institution you could put that child into. And for us it was Pownell State School. When we got there, we found there had been started a group called which today is referred to as Pineland Parents and Friends Association. We struggled all together to make that effective. Usually about 15 to 40 people would attend the meetings. We held those meetings on a Sunday because that was visiting day. People didn't do much visiting through the week. We were told that Sunday was our visiting day. When your child first entered Pownell State School, you were asked not to visit for a month, to let the child get adjusted to being away from you. It was a very difficult condition, and I remember the day, I'll never forget the day I took my daughter there. The residents slept head to toe in long lines in overcrowded buildings. And that wasn't because the administration desired that. There just wasn't any choice for the administration. About 1,700 people lived in those few buildings. And when they went outside, they were allowed into a fenced area for exercise and fresh air. Many of these people there at that time were marginally retarded, and they could have functioned a whole lot better even then, even without the training and the programs that have been developed since. These people in these fenced-in areas would line the fences and stare out at you and hold a hand out and try to touch you. They wanted the warmth and companionship of somebody, another human. But just remember, there weren't any other choices. If we had kept Barbara at home, under the conditions, 24-hour-a-day care, 7 days a week, my wife would have ended up in AMHI. And the state would have had 2 people on their hands. So the parents did the next best thing. We all went to the legislature. We supported the budget requests of Dr. Bowman. He used to come to the meetings on Sundays and explain his needs to us. And then we would go in groups to talk to the legislators. I remember at one early hearing when we filled the Senate chamber. And Governor Muskie attended it, and he came and he spoke to us and showed his interest. And I think that was the beginning of some real results. The legislature gradually began to respond to our urging. We had a loose-knit organization, but it was a tremendous support group to each other, to the administration, and to the retarded people here in Maine, not just at Pineland, but outside. We had 2 members, Mr. and Mrs. Walter Soucy of Lewiston, and they used to sell memberships. We all sold memberships in the association. And they were $1 a piece, I think, and the Susies were just absolutely fantastic. They would bring in hundreds of dollars every year from people that they had sold memberships to, and that's where the friends came in, because they were friends of retarded. At Christmas, parents used to roam the streets calling on merchants to try to get toys and clothing for gifts for Christmas. And the United States Marines helped out. And many other groups helped us in that effort. And at Christmas time, nobody went without. Pineland, and as Al said, or somebody earlier said, 4th of July were 2 great days at Pineland. I think they must have been something that the residents look forward to all year long. After that, we had a fund drive for the gymnasium, and all the money we earned went to the benefit of the residents. Not just for the gymnasium, but some in research. We gave, actually, we had a research foundation to which money was contributed, and the money went to the research unit at Pineland. We would give money directly for TV sets for care in the day rooms, washers and dryers to help out so that somebody could do some delicate laundry without having it sent to big laundry, which was so destructive. We had a basketball court paved, and eventually the gym got built, and later we supported a swimming pool. It was extremely difficult to get publicity for what we were doing. We would go in, I went in, I don't know how many times, and sat down at the Portland Press Herald, and we'd call the Bangor Daily News, and we'd get people to do a little for us. But we couldn't seem to get them to see the real story. I think the first real newspaper stories were those of Senator Kerry, absolutely effective in portraying the conditions. At the same time, we were trying to keep the fund drive alive for a chapel. And that got started because there was a chaplain, Diefendorfer, there who came to an association meeting, and he said he wished they could have a chapel for the residents. But if not a chapel, at least a bell to remind them that it's service time. So as a result, I located a bell up along the coast, and the Pineland people went up with a truck and brought it back, and that was used to start our fund drive for the chapel. And the bell is still in use outside the present chapel. As for the chapel itself, it was amazing how we got funds from little church groups all over the state of Maine. Little tiny villages would send us every year a contribution toward this. They were very faithful about it, and we owed a great debt of gratitude to the people of Maine for this building. As a symbol of change, I can't help but think of how wonderful it was just about 2 or 3 weeks ago to see when Elmer Young retired, the final service he gave at the chapel. And here were residents. There was the hydrocephalic, there were a couple of them in there, and there was singing, and it was just a joy to see the light on the faces of these residents. And I remember one hydrocephalic was wheeled up the aisle after the service was over, and I looked him right in the eye and smiled at him, and I waved, and he looked right back at me and smiled, and he waved. And I felt that he had been touched, certainly, by this. Pineland has changed. The residential program in the community has come forth. We used to accuse the administration of dumping, but that was because we felt they were trying to put the cart before the horse. We felt there was no facilities ready for these people. There was no training program for people in the community at that time, and at least if there was, we weren't aware of it. And we saw those conditions that my wife spoke about. There was one house had 60 males, and I felt that was just another small institution. Today there's a new life for the retarded, and much of that is owed to the consent decree and the good faith effort of our legislature and the Department of Mental Health and Corrections and the Bureau of Mental Retardations, which incidentally was a brainchild of the parents. Lynn Brow, who's deceased now, and myself both decided we ought to have a Bureau of Mental Retardation. In fact, we were after, at the time, a whole department, but we didn't get that. But we managed to get enough interest going so the Bureau did come about. And I truly believe we owe as much a debt of gratitude, and maybe more, to the parents who tried to help Pineland. Not those who chose to stay home and never visit their child. And believe me, there were many, many of them, and we couldn't get them to come to Pineland. But those who formed Pineland Parents and Friends and stayed with it